Aren't you tired of playing normal farm sims? Don't you just want to go ape shit? And by that I mean to space? Enter Lightyear Frontier, a new farm sim survival game that has you piloting a sick-ass mech to traverse an alien planet, farm, and discover secrets. I got a chance to play Lightyear Frontier when the developers Framebreak put out a cute little demo, but honestly, I wasn't thrilled with it. Oh my god, Mechy! Mechy, please! But I like the idea of a robot farm sim enough that when I was reached out to play the game ahead of early access, I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And I am so glad that I did that. I'm not totally sure what it was, but this time playing it, I got bit by the Lightyear Frontier's bug. I gobbled up the game over 2 days, and now I want to share with all of you my experience on this strange little planet with, again, my sick-ass robot, but now a warning.
Now a warning?
There will be spoilers ahead, but if I'm being real, there's not a ton of story here, and I'm not going to spoil the very end of the story so far, but still, watch at your own risk. With that out of the way, 28 days of Lightyear Frontier, let's go! Oops. So, on day one, I crashed. My tiny little human character, who truly seemed to be about the size of a small dog based on this perspective, explored around my new alien planet home until I found my robot in pieces. I used my sick little telekinesis pickaxe to reassemble my mech, then got inside and we're off. During all this, I was also introduced to my new satellite robot assistant, Piper, who sounds like the late great Leslie Jordan.
Up there in the sky, that blinking dot is yours truly.
Hi, Piper. Scattered around the landscape and helpfully sending up orange smoke were my mech attachments, so obviously my first task was to find all of those. I first found my spike saw that could both chainsaw or pound stuff, and then I found a little vacuum hose harvester to suck stuff up and a water spray nozzle to get stuff all wet. With this spray nozzle, I got tasked with cleaning up the Pine Heights area by spraying away this noxious goo that was all over the place. Now if there's one thing I love, it is a task to clean some shit up, so I went all in on that and quickly abandoned getting the other attachments for now. This exploration brought me to the ruins that had strange rocks which, when broken, contained artifacts for Piper to analyze. I also found a little cave that my mech couldn't fit in, but I could, so I jumped out and got to it. I will say when I played the demo for this part and was looking around, I was only using the mech, which was just clunky and not right for this purpose, which I think contributed to me not having a good time with the demo. Overall, I think what really helped me enjoy the game this time was being more comfortable with the controls in general. I was able to better enjoy the good of what was here without having to struggle with the game. Now, whether something was changed on the back end between the demo and now, or it was just like, now I know what I'm doing, that's up in the air. But the point is, the movement this time around was fun, and I love that there were moments where I had to get out of my mech. They were honestly my favorite, even though it is fun to watch the mech fall over from stepping on a root wrong. Oh my god. Anyways, I couldn't find all the artifacts for this area, so I moved on with cleaning up Pine Heights, and as the sun rose on day 2, the region was restored. This mysteriously lit up a light on a mysterious doorway somewhere on the planet, which was just mysterious. With a new day dawning, I set out for more exploration, finding myself a sprout shooter which plants trees, and that door from the morning cutscene. Cool. Nearby, I found some more noxious slime and was ready to get to work blasting it away when, gotcha, I need to upgrade my hose to do that. There was also nearby a rock holding back some water, but I couldn't break that until I upgraded my spike saw. So, do you smell that, kids? Goals. Objectives, even. Next to the pond rock, I did find a new ruin, and after unsuccessfully attempting to launch myself on top, I got distracted by some noxious weeds that I could suck up with my vacuum hose. This is fun. Listen, I'm a simple person, entertained by simple things, okay? The other day I bought a full-size vacuum for the first time in my adult life, and damn if I didn't spend the rest of the day vacuuming every crevice of my apartment. I guess you could say I got sucked in. I finally figured out how to get to the top of the ruins and popped out of my mech to find some artifacts, but once again, I fell short of completing that and just kinda left because the vacuuming called to me. I must suck weeds. I continued slurping up those weeds and then all of a sudden, bam, I had restored another area. I mean, at this rate, I'll be done in no time, right? After this, I decided to focus on me and I set about building a house and maybe a home. I was delighted to find out that you could pin crafting recipes in your track quests, so you didn't have to just remember the ingredients, which is truly the bane of my existence with crafting in any game. I started by giving myself the cutest, most tiny little tent, and then after some deforestation, I built myself a shed. And then the game told me to build an oil press, and I said, yes, game daddy. Now at this point I needed to gather more materials for the press, but it was late, and who knows if I'm penalized for not sleeping, so I went to sleep and watched as another purple arrow lit up on the mysterious door. Day 3 was raining, and it is unclear if this is a classic farm sim Day 3 scripted rain or not, but I appreciate the vibes nonetheless. To build my oil press, I needed a little bit more wood, so I decimated some trees, but then I felt bad, so I used my sprout cannon to plant some more. Then I built an oil press, baby's first processor, and used it to make some plant oil. With that, I decided to make a little campfire for myself because, why not be a little cozy? It was at this point I realized that this being a mech farm sim and all, I didn't have much farm going on. So I started gathering materials to make myself some farm plots and also made my way towards the last orange flare to get my final attachment. Along the way, I found a new material, aluminum. I have to say, I do love that the first level of metal isn't fucking copper, I loved that so much that I was apparently a bit too eager for aluminum because I got over encumbered at a certain point, which meant that I couldn't run or jump, making movement so slow. But I muscled through and eventually found my seed shooter so I could shoot seeds where they needed to be shot. Perfect, because once I walked ever so slowly home and offloaded my extra weight into a chest, it was time to build 2 whole farm plots for myself and then shoot some seeds into that fresh soil. Now with this last attachment, I also unlocked the upgrade depot recipe to upgrade my mech, but for that I would need aluminum frames, and I don't know how to get those. Mayhaps it's with this assembler machine I also just unlocked? Let's find out. And I can make an aluminum frame. So with that, I was able to make myself an upgrade depot, and all of a sudden, I had a bunch of new goals to work towards. Obviously, I would need to upgrade the power levels of my spike saw, water shooter, and vacuum, but there was also faster running speed, better jumping, and just lots of quality of life upgrades. All in all, lots of stuff to work towards as we move into Day 4. First, I needed some polyberry oil, and I could have sworn that I picked up polyberries somewhere, but I couldn't find them in my inventory, so I went to suck up some more and then figured out that if crops are in the wild, they only yield seeds, not the actual crop. Annoying, but makes sense, so what can you do? Now I just had to wait around until the polyberries I planted grew, I guess. So while I waited for that, I just kinda fucked around. I went around looking for new seeds. I got out of my mech to get some shiny geochards, which I then tried to shoot back to my mech and
Whoa. Come back.
And then I just explored a little, getting used to controlling the mech. I made my way back to camp and made myself a fodder oven so that I could make feed for animals and stuff. And then I made little torches to light up this dingy ass camp. And that was it. It wasn't a super productive day in terms of progress, but I had fun. And at the end of the day, isn't that what video games are all about? Imagine. On day 5, my polyberries were ready for harvest. I found that harvesting them gets you more seeds as well, so love that. I had so many seeds now, in fact, that I made 2 more farm plots and planted even more seeds. This did present an issue with watering though, because I quickly ran dry, but I couldn't go to the pond by me because I needed to upgrade my spike saw to break open that pond rock. That meant I had to run all the way to the beach to get water, which my mech does not like. Get the fuck up. With my seeds fed, I decided to feed some animals next. So I went and found a little critter nest and gave it some fodder, which didn't seem to do anything. So yeah, I guess let's just go to the source. I gave the animals themselves food, and this time they shit out aluminum rods. Okay, I mean, I'm scared for the digestive tracts, but I guess that's cool. Honestly, future EJ note here, this is the last time I feed an animal in this game. I just don't understand what the system is, and I feel like this is going to be something that's figured out in early access, right? Anyways, I did some more exploring, which got me to the Yellow Forest, which very pretty. I found a ruin straight away and set to work looking for artifacts. This one was a bit more platforming heavy, and I gotta say, I just really enjoy these sections so much. I really hope that there's more of them in the rest of the game. Unlike the last few times that I've done this, though, I stayed committed this time and realized that the rocks gave off a sound that you could use to find well-hidden ones. With that, I found all of the artifacts, which unlocked a lore dump from Piper in my menu. Apparently, this was a town center, probably a mining town, so cool. We love history. Honestly, all of these sections looking for artifacts and stuff gave me kind of Myst vibes. I should play Myst again. With the town center discovered, I went about starting to clean up a little bit of the Yellow Forest because I could spray the goo here without an upgrade. However, I couldn't suck up weeds yet, but then gotcha! It's day 6! I guess this is actually fine and I don't get penalized at all for staying out until dawn? Cool. Unfortunately though, there wasn't a lot of goo in the Yellow Forest. It was mostly the weeds that I couldn't suck up. So for now I couldn't really restore it. So I moved on and found a new region, the mountainside coast, which again, I couldn't clean up yet. Fun. It was at this point that I remembered, oh shit, I gotta water my crops. So I made my way home, but got immediately distracted by carrot seeds, which I need for upgrades, and the strange circular ruin I didn't complete a few days ago. Using my newly learned power of hearing, I found the final artifact and uncovered the lore for this area, the landing pad. Apparently, it was mainly used to transport people rather than goods, suggesting whoever lived here didn't just live on this planet. Interesting. With my brain bigger, I finally made it to my little camp and started watering my crops, and then made some aluminum parts when I ran out of water, and made enough to make my first ever mech upgrade and get an extra powerful spike saw. Let's go. After going back and forth to the beach, oh my god, I finally got my crops watered before setting out in search of red crystals for another upgrade, and then quickly getting lost and getting aluminum instead. This game is all about just kind of vibing, doing something and getting immediately distracted, and honestly, love that for me. And then day 7 was another one of those kind of bumbling days, honestly. After I crawled my over-encumbered mech home, I planted some carrots, and while watering them, I remembered that I could use my upgraded spike saw to get the pond up and running. A great day for Camp EJ. Oh my god, Camp Water! I went further bumbling around the map until I finally found red crystals, but unfortunately I need red crystal dust to build the thing, and I don't know how to make that yet. But I did find coal, so that's cool. Wait, I don't think I told you guys what I was building. Okay, so like a few days ago, I got a transmission from a merchant in the neighborhood of this galaxy, and they were like, hey, build me a depot, and I'll swing by. So that's what I'm building, a merchant depot. Cool. Anyways, I did this silly fodder thing now where I made fodder again, but I really don't care about the fodder stuff. So moving on, I got myself some more wood and aluminum frames to build myself a full, real, darling little cabin. Look at her. I even made a little laundry area and a fence to increase my coziness score. And with my coziness up, I'll get an advantage every night. Level 1 coziness nets me a chance to harvest extra materials every day, which we love. Fun. And the fun continued on day 8 with weed seeds. In a supremely confusing and hectic moment,
Girl, what the fuck?
weeds fell from the sky and destroyed my crops.
Ah, what the hell is going on?
I got on my mech and was able to vacuum the seeds out of the sky, but the damage was already done. Sad. I harvested what I could and planted more seeds, and at this point I started to realize there was something I was missing. The noxious goos I sucked out of the seeds this morning could be turned into spores, but how? And that crystal dust, how do I get that? So I set out to journey across the land to find new materials in the hopes that finding one would unlock the blueprints for the machine I'd need to get crystal dust. Of course, no sooner did I start journeying, but I got distracted at the first ruin site. Because, of course. I used my newfound powers of sound to find the last 2 artifacts for this area, revealing that this site was a former dam that got turned into a wall and now has mysterious gates that that no one really knows what's on the other side of. After uncovering this lore, I returned to searching for new materials and set my eye on finding copper, a metal that I had seen in the upgrades menu but not in real life. While I was journeying, looking for this mysterious material, I found the lowland plains area of the map, which I once again could not restore. But that didn't stop me from exploring it, and looking around brought me to another beach that had
A data cable?
I followed this cable back when all of a sudden,
Oh, just A9, just A9.
but yeah, so the cable actually brought me back to another ruin, but I couldn't bring the mech into this, so I jumped my little ass out and started looking for more artifacts. This involved lots of scary jumps, and among the artifacts, there was a blue crystal seemingly being used for power or something. I picked these up and brought them to my mech, which unlocked
Silo. Interesting.
I finally found the last artifact and revealed that this was, no surprise, a power station, though it was clearly powering more than just the lights. Intriguing. With this, I headed home to water my crops and...
My God, this thing hits one rock the wrong way and it just says, well, might as well die, which, like, you know, relatable content, but still.
Despite all of that, I actually made it home in time to water stuff before it was time for day 10 and a carrot harvest. Yay! I immediately put some crops into the oil maker and then started investigating some of the things I learned how to build yesterday. I discovered that the silo needs copper wire, so now I'm certain that that is what I need to be finding right now. And hopefully that copper will unlock something that I can make red crystal dust with. In the meantime though, I finally placed and then built that merchant depot that I was talking about before.
What now?
This quickly summoned the merchant who reached out to me earlier, Lola, who's just a little sweetie and looks like an average-sized person, which makes me think maybe my character is just an average-sized person and everything around here is just mech-sized, you know? As cute as she is, though, Lola did not have any new resources that I could really use, but she did have wheat seeds, and I haven't found wheat yet, so I bought those and planted them. I don't know what these will be used for, but I guess we're gonna find out. At this point, I left a menu open, thinking that it paused time so I could run to the bathroom, but it did not, and by the time I got back, I actually just forgot what I was doing. So I just went to sleep to get to day 11 quicker, I guess. On day 11, it was a rainy day, so no crops needed watering, and instead I got right into searching for the copper. After finding nothing in the pine area, I reasoned it was probably in a region that I hadn't been able to explore yet, and getting to those regions, I was very graceful.
Okay. Oh God. Well,
Naturally, on my way to one of the new areas, I got distracted by what I thought could be a fun platforming section to jump along this strange looking rock formations on the beach. This led me to fall even more and very nearly lose my mech.
no! Oh my God.
I went along for more exploring, and eventually, after falling down a ravine and freeing myself, I found not copper, but a new ruin to explore. This was inside a cave with a small opening, so I leapt from my mech and got to work finding those purple rocks. Now, if I had one complaint about these sections, it would be that I wish that there was a third-person mode when you weren't in your mech. I really don't like first-person, it just makes me kind of dizzy. But regardless of that, I did find all of the artifacts that I needed and uncovered the lore of this chamber. It used to hold items of great importance, but someone or something went goblin mode and destroyed everything for some reason. Spicy drama. I exited the cave and continued to unsuccessfully look for copper, and mainly I really just spent my time exploring the mountainside coast region a little bit. It was flat. Eventually, I found my way to Stepstone Peak, and inside a cave I found iron ore. Just in time for day 12. It was another rainy day, so I really didn't need to worry about my crops again. So in the meantime, I continued my search for copper. Eventually, I found my way to the landing pad ruin, and next to that...
Is that copper? Oh my God, I found it. Did I find it? Oh my God, I think I found it.
With my first copper harvest, I unlocked the blueprint for a grinder, which sounds like just what I need. I harvested as much copper as I could, getting myself over encumbered, but I don't care. I made the long long trek home, and then I made myself some copper wire so I could make a grinder, which was friggin' huge. With that constructed, I could finally make red crystal dust, blue crystal dust, spores, stone dust, and I'm assuming other things eventually. I harvested my crops, and then with some more copper wire and carrot oil, I was finally able to upgrade my vacuum power. Let's go! I set some red crystals to get ground up for my hose upgrade, and while that was grinding, I looked into some quality of life upgrades, like increasing how much my mech could carry, how fast it moved or jumped, etc, etc. I started tracking the storage and water capacity upgrades, and then I set about getting the parts for those. I ran off to get some aluminum, even as the sun started to rise, because I've deduced at this point that you don't actually need sleep in your house to get the coziness benefits. So instead, I mined into
Day 13.
I ran home with my aluminum in tow and made the refined materials that I needed for my upgrades. First, I started by upgrading my inventory capacity, let's go, and then with my new red crystal dust, I finally upgraded both my water tank capacity and my hose power. I gotta tell ya, I felt immensely powerful and very excited because now I could restore more areas of this planet. I headed right off to the yellow forest and was quickly able to suck up all of those noxious weeds, and it was, so satisfying. There was just so many weeds and I was just freaking mowing through them with my vacuum. Unfortunately, this also gave me so much friggin' fiber. And fiber is honestly the worst resource because you get so much of it and then it weighs too much and so it weighs you down, but you also don't really need it for like anything. I sucked weed until the sun was almost set, and then I finally restored the yellow forest. To celebrate, I went into a cave and harvested some blue crystals and coal, which I launched at my mech and
Oh my god. Oh my god.
so after I chased those down, I headed home to offload some of my materials and head to sleep to see a cool cutscene of the yellow forest fully restored and the door with another light on it. Exciting times. Day 14 kicked off one of the, let's say, stranger quest lines of this game so far. After harvesting some wheat and finding out that it's basically just used for like decorations, I received a weak radio signal from someone asking for help. I needed to get to a place with better reception to hear it fully, so after planting my crops and watering them, I headed off towards the quest marker. It took me to the newly restored yellow forest where I harvested some zapper twig seeds before going to the, just kidding, actually, I got distracted because look, iron ore and blue crystals in the wild, crazy. Unfortunately, I need a spike saw upgrade to harvest them, but we'll get that soon. Back to the task at hand, I went to the quest marker where I was told to build a radio tower to receive the transmission. So to get the materials, I headed back home. This mission, I will say, was annoying in that I had to go back and forth ever so slowly to fetch materials and such, although I guess a lot of the game is just collecting materials, but for some reason this was the first one where I was like, come on. Of course, back home I didn't have enough copper, so I journeyed out to get some more of that, and then I realized, well, you know, I'm right by Stepstone Peak, so might as well just start restoring that, right? So I started spraying away goo into the morning of day 15. Restoring Stepstone by spraying goo was, I will say, a lot more frustrating than the satisfying sucking up weeds of yellow forest. There wasn't a lot of water sources, and so my tank, even with the upgrade, would run out of water so quickly. Despite my setbacks though, I was able to finish the restoration by about noon, and then I moved on to the mountainside plains, but my hose wasn't strong enough for those still, so I needed to start working on that upgrade next. Before heading home with my copper, I stopped to drop off the materials that I already had at the radio tower, and it was on this long trek home that I realized that I really set up my camp in a really remote location. Like, I could have definitely picked somewhere more central, but I didn't know this when I started, so, you know, if you're playing this, maybe learn from my mistakes. I watered my crops when I got home, and then started refining materials for this good old radio tower. I got the metal shit that I needed pretty quick, and then after some cheeky deforestation, I had everything I needed. I headed back to the radio tower and built that shit, finally gained the full transmission from Ulf. He said he lived on the big red planet next door, which I don't see a red planet, but okay. And he needs materials, so he's gonna send us some requests and then we'll just, fulfill them. Pretty easy, but I never received a request. And I actually never received a request the entire time that I played, so I'm just gonna guess that this is not ready yet. You know, early access, all that. Regardless, the day's antics brought me another light on the door, so on day 16, I focused on getting more upgrades from my mech guy so I could restore even more areas. I ran home and harvested my crops, then investigated further upgrades to see what I needed to gather. And I definitely knew what all of the materials were.
Battery? Blue lens? Oh, God.
The rest of the day from there was all about making materials and refining materials and making oil. It was a very cerebral day, honestly. Lots of just remembering what I'm supposed to be doing. But I now knew that I needed a shit ton of karut oil, so I became fixated on getting that. I built myself 2 more seed beds to plant even more karuts in, then ended my day going to grab some copper for upgrades. Day 17 was honestly more of the same. After I over-encumbered myself with copper and dragged my mech ass home, I just harvested crops and started to focus in on getting specific materials for specific upgrades. It was going to require a lot of oil for all these upgrades, and I didn't have enough crops yet to make it, so after all of the harvesting, I went and built myself 2 more seed beds to accommodate that. Then day 18 brought a harvest day and new spaces to plant more rabbage. With my new crops planted, I decided to start working on making another oil press to increase production. And once that was made, I journeyed to Stepstone Peak to check out what goodies I could find that could present new opportunities. I found out in Mountainside Coast that while my hose wasn't powerful enough for the goo, I could still vacuum up the weeds here. Of course, that wasn't enough to restore Mountainside Coast, but fun. And then in Stepstone Peak, I found chromase seeds, and I remembered that I needed that oil for upgrades, so I eagerly sucked those up. As the day ended, I started working on the only quest that I had left undone, making a color press, which I finished on day 19. So the color press. With this machine, I could turn color flowers into paint to customize my mech or different buildings that I had. Right now, the only colors I had available was a very patriotic red, white, and blue, but I'd rather vomit than do that, so I just made a chest and some seed beds red, and that was really it. With my new Ravage oil, I was able to get a new mech upgrade,
Thruster boost. Hell yes!
and then while watering my crops, I tried out my upgraded thruster.
I don't know that was worth it, but okay.
But I was also able to upgrade my sprint speed today, so with this in the thruster, I was about to be flying around this planet. At this point, I knew I needed glass for some materials, and I saw that stone dust made glass, so I made some of that, and once I got that, it unlocked the blueprint for a furnace, which smelts stuff. So this was my next goal. In addition to that, I wanted to make myself a shed to house the furnace because that increases the production of the furnace. So while I waited for the rest of the stone to get dusted, I went to get myself a lot of wood. Along the way, I discovered that 1, cut down pine trees get you softwood, and 2, you can do tricks.
Oh shit. Oh, I landed on my feet. Let's go.
I cut down trees into the morning of day 20 and then ran home to build my new constructions and also to harvest more carrots and my first zapper twigs. So y'all know we got some upgrades coming up soon. I built my new structures and found that indeed the furnace makes glass with stone dust, red glass with red crystal dust, and even iron bars. I got some glass going while I planted even more crops and then started working towards, you guessed it, more upgrades. At this point, I was like, listen, I have enough materials to do this Hydro Splash upgrade. Might as well see what that is. And reader, I wish I had done this so much sooner because listen, this shoots out a blast of water that waters the 9 crops around it, and it makes watering so much easier. I could have saved so much time had I just done this earlier.
Incroyable.
With my crops watered, I was just going through all my recipes now and being like, okay, what do I want to build now? I settled on a compost bin to see what fertilizer looked like, so I headed out for some more wood. But then when I found enough, I actually fully forgot what I even got the wood for. Classic. But I didn't stress too much about forgetting, and I just quickly got distracted because now I had enough karut oil to upgrade my spike saw so I could finally get that iron. Now in the second tier of power upgrades, I set my eyes on the next tier of upgrades for the vacuum and hose, which I would need to restore the last 2 regions. And for the next few days, most of what I did was just refining materials. So to avoid getting into the boring minutia, here's the highlights, I guess. On day 21, with my new upgrade, I wanted to get some iron, so I headed out to get some of that. I found it in Stepstone along with lots of blue crystals and challenging terrain.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry that I keep using those clips, but I just find the mech falling to be just hilarious. While I was in Stepstone, I also found new critters, Xenorks, who, sorry, look disgusting. If they were those eels that kind of pop up out of the sand and they were underwater, it would be very different, but they are above water, and so they're gross. I headed home, and with my running upgrade and my booster, I was flying across this terrain. This is the most fun I've had, honestly, moving with this mech. I harvested some good old crops and planted new babies and watered them with, such speed. These upgrades are really popping off. Day 22 started with another noxious weed attack on my farm, so I had to defend it by sucking those seeds out of the sky, which luckily gave me a bunch more noxious goo to work with. After that, there was just more resource gathering and planting of crops and messing around with a surprisingly good camera mode. Day 23 brought a need for zapper twigs, so I headed off to the yellow forest to get some more seeds for those. Then I headed home gracefully. Always so gracefully. And then I got to planting. On day 24, a different set of zapper twigs were ready for harvest, which had finally enabled me to upgrade my vacuum power, one of the 2 upgrades that I needed to continue progression, but only one of 2, so I had a little bit of waiting to do, and I decided, fuck it, let's get this Pathmaker upgrade. I assembled all the materials I needed for that, and while waiting for the oil I needed, I also upgraded my vacuum harvester range so that I could get to the inventory upgrade in the skill tree. After that, with my materials ready, I unlocked the Pathmaker. I took it for a test ride, and okay, well, it kills my crops, so that's good to know. So yeah, but I took some time to make myself some pathways, which I think just brings everything on my little camp together. Day 25 started with some excitement in the form of noxious bubbles, a new type of event. Bubbles of noxious goo just started floating towards my farm and getting bigger and bigger. I had to spray them with water before they got too big, or else they'd explode into puddles of goo and possibly destroy my crops. This event was definitely more difficult than the weeds because I had to keep refilling the water tank, but I made it through somehow and got a few noxious goos. I do like these events though. They really break up the monotony of the day-to-day, you know what I'm saying? After I calmed down, I tended to my crops and then headed over to Lola, where I bought myself a new windshield, a wooden one that has flowers and shit on it, aka, the cottagecore girly one. I vaguely wanted to do my whole mech in that style, but that was gonna be expensive, so that'll be a journey for another time. With the rest of my day, I just worked on reorganizing my materials. I gotta say also, I really wish the inventory had some sort of sort function, because this just stresses me out having all these different types of materials just like kind of slapdash put together, and I can't organize it. I can't move stuff around, I hope that's in a future update. On day 26, I was able to make iron parts at last, and then finally, I upgraded my irrigation hose. Now I could restore every region on this planet. First, it was off to Mountainside Coast to spray away some goo, which, as you all recall, is my favorite way to restore an area. As usual, it took me most of the day to finish blasting the goo away, but even though it took me into the evening, I finally did it. And then on day 27, I headed towards the final area I have to clean, the lowland plains. Luckily, there wasn't much goo here, just kind of a bunch of weeds, so I got to sucking. In the middle of my sucking, I found a little cave, so I journeyed in there and found,
oh, what the fuck?
Fractalite ore, which looks so friggin' cool. Come on, alien ore, let's go. Inspired, I continued sucking up weeds until the final area was restored.
Hell yeah.
Which then turned on the final light on the mysterious door, and on the final day 28, I was super pumped to see what was beyond this door. So, after planting some more crops and being a farmer, I headed off to see what lies beyond. When I arrived, the door slid open, revealing a cool little sci-fi elevator thing that led me to something that you're gonna have to find out for yourself, because you know what? I don't want to spoil everything for you. Come on.
Whoa.
This is the fun part. This is the part that you want to see, okay? I will say, though, that it is very cool. It's very world-buildy down there, and it does unlock a new ability for your mech that I'm just super excited to play around with. That whole section made me super excited to keep playing, but then I was shocked when I got a little title card that said that this was the end of the story. I was like, wait, that's it? But, I guess good on the devs for making me wait and, whetting my appetite. But with that, my 28 days in Lightyear Frontier was over. And honestly, I was so pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed this game, especially after that demo. But like the full version of the game, I really just enjoyed the gameplay loop, the progression system, the exploration was so fun. And the beginning of the story that I found, I'm so excited to see where it goes from here, I will say I am sad that it's early access and not, really finished and ready to play fully. But that's just really a personal preference of mine where I'm kind of early access out out at this point. But listen, even editing this video made me want to go back and play more of this game, even if it wasn't complete yet. So I cannot recommend enough checking out Lightyear Frontier. So now you have your task to do until I see you in the next video. And until then, stay cute, stay hydrated, stay you, and most importantly, stay...
Well,